Okay, so let me officially welcome everybody to tonight's conversation. And some of you have been with us before, so you know my standing line here is that we don't do webinars because they're boring. We do magic shows because they work like magic. I'm feeling a little bit like I'm in the Matrix here with my blurred background right now, but anyways, we'll make this work. So the conversation tonight, you guys, is we're going to grow like magic by knowing this number. And one of the things that I find, because we really specialize in healthcare, particularly with chiropractors, is that a lot of people are hopefully all great docs and diagnosticians and adjusters and so on, but they don't necessarily get the big idea when it comes to business, particularly knowing their numbers. And in my almost 27-year consulting career, I've sadly had to go in and almost rescue some people because they didn't know their numbers. They knew them, like they just literally didn't know them. And so as a result of that, they're going backwards / bankrupt, and they just didn't know it, right? So knowing your numbers is key, but there's one number in specific that I think is absolutely key. And I'll stand by my 26 and a half years of experience as of this recording as to why I think what we're going to talk about tonight is so incredibly important. So for those that aren't really clear about Full Circle, there's really two things that we focus on, which is helping people grow as a person as well as a business professional. We believe that those two things are married. You cannot grow in your business without growing as a person. It just defies the way the universe is set up. And so, and the classic story in chiropractic is you take a 100-a-week practitioner and put them in a 300-a-week practice. It'll be a 100-a-week practice in a certain period of time, right? And you take a 300-a-week practitioner and you put them in a 100-a-week practice, it'll become a 300-a-week practice, because the difference is the person, not necessarily the location, the staff, the colors on the walls, and that stuff, right? So very specifically, we are really focused on three things: helping people find more meaning in their life and their business, have more freedom, and make more money in the process. So that's, for those that are not familiar with who we are and what we do, that's how we do it. And I'm going to actually come out and I'm going to share something else with you guys tonight, because I think it's pertinent. Hello, Dr. Trim. Nice to have you, as always. So let me just put this into context here, you guys, right? And I'm going to grab this model because I think it's very pertinent, right? So I get asked a lot, like, what is it that we do and how do we do it? So as I just explained, right, we're really focused on you creating more meaning in your life and figuring out what freedom means to you, both time, particularly with time, and then of course what amount of dollars it is that you want to make in order to make your life exactly the way you desire and deserve it to be. One of my great friends says it this way. He says, Creator didn't make any junk, Tom, so everybody deserves exactly the kind of life that they want, but a lot of people haven't invested the time to figure out how to do that. I've literally invested my entire this phase of my entire adult life to helping people create more meaning, freedom, and dollars. And this is how we do it, you guys. We've got a four-part model, and at the center of all of this is your vision for your life, because for us, your vision is just a personification of your purpose. And your purpose is defined in Webster's dictionary as the reason something exists or is done, right? So there's a reason why everybody exists. There's a reason why you do what you do. And the expression of that purpose is through your vision. So the vision is actually very central for us and very much the key to our model. But there's things that can get in the way of that vision expressing, and we call those focus blocks. They show up in lots of forms. There's limiting beliefs, there's undeveloped skill sets and undeveloped communication pathways, and there's lots of fears, lots of different faces that the focus blocks have. But our job is to, Inspector Clouseau that, figure what's in the way of that vision expressing and remove those. Of course, in order to run a really successful business, you also must have systems. And my favorite acronym for systems is saving you significant time, energy, and money. That's the acronym for systems: saving you significant time, energy, and money. Because most entrepreneurs are very self-actualized, they're self-realized, they're ambitious, they're willing to, put their best foot forward, let their actions speak louder than the words and produce results. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it produces an outcome that you can only grow so much before you just run out of personal energy and ambition. And systems can actually help you do that. And of course, if you really want to make a difference in your community and create more fulfillment and make a bigger impact, you've got to have a team. And, one of the things I find, again, docs going through professional school, they don't really get a lot of training on leadership and communication and team management and delegation and accountability and all of the pieces that make a team work, right? So it's super important in my mind that all of those pieces are brought together hand in glove, because out of that, as I said earlier, you'll end up with more meaning, more freedom, and whatever amount of dollars it is that you want. So that's the model that we work with, you guys. I developed that model over 26, as of this recording, over 26 years ago. I haven't changed it because I haven't found a better model. It just seems to work. We've worked with clients in every continent on the planet except Africa for some reason. We've never had a client from Africa for some reason. So we know that this system and this structure works. One of the things we know that is really helpful is if you're going to be on a trip or a tour, is to have a roadmap. And so we have a 3-layered roadmap that literally is, again, based upon our model of vision, focus, systems, and team. There's really specific landmarks along the journey that people go through as they work through developing more meaning, more money, and more freedom in their life. And so we've got 3 sort of levels to this roadmap that we use, depending upon where people are coming into their work with us and where, of course, they want to go. So tonight, you guys, we're going to be actually really focusing on this piece of the puzzle right here, knowing your numbers, and very specifically one number, which is probably going to sound a little bit, what's the word I want to use? It's a little bit maybe grandiose, but I can tell you from experience that it's exactly what that looks like. This is, once people become a client of ours, this is actually an internal system roadmap we use that has all of our different, not all, the most important pieces of the puzzle. So again, this piece right here, you guys, is underneath the vision category in our model. And very specifically, we're going to be talking about this magic number. So that's the context for tonight. If anybody has any questions, I'm wide open to taking a question. And hopefully I've done a good job. There are no questions, but if there is, throw it in the chat, or you can go from there. And again, for those of you who are just joining us or watching this recording, I do feel a little bit like I'm in the Matrix here because of my blurred background, but because I'm at my Wilderness Lodge, one of my Wilderness Lodge properties, and I'm running off a satellite system here, right? So it's hanging in there. Pretty happy about that at this particular moment in time. So we'll get back to the PowerPoints, you guys, and carry on from there. Okay, so let's carry on, you guys. I already showed you guys these roadmaps and stuff. So let's talk about growing like magic by knowing this number, right? And this has been my experience, you guys, with consulting now, as I said, for 26.5 years as of this. One of the things that I hear a lot of people talk to me about when they're talking about becoming clients with us is they really have this frustration, this sense that, they've got a lot of potential to grow and they're just not hitting their stride. They're just not hitting their potential. They're let's use the same word again, stride. And they know this there, but they just don't know what to do. And one of the reasons is because they don't know whether to turn left or turn right, right? There's just so many choices. There's so many things in life, in business, in practice that you could focus on, that you could look at. It's like, do I focus on this? Do I focus on that? And really what I'm going to enroll you in tonight is that knowing your numbers, particularly this number that we're going to talk a lot about tonight, is really the focus of our conversation. This is the most important thing because it becomes a foundational piece upon which everything else runs forward from. Okay. So, because one of the things that they hear is they get, talking to friends and classmates and colleagues, and, they get hearing, well, yeah, but I'm growing. And we used to talk a lot when I used to, in the days of old, when we used to do more live presentations, right? And that, we talked about the CEF, the chiropractic exaggeration factor, where people would go to seminars and they'd take their best day or week or month in practice, and then they'd multiply by at least 1.5, and they'd say, oh yeah, I'm doing this right now. It's good. It's going great, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, I've seen the numbers. They're commonly not that great. God bless you if you're doing exactly what you want to do, but it does create this tension inside of people that it's like, oh man, all my friends are growing and I'm not. What's wrong with me? I know I got potential. What do I need to do? But I don't know what to do. So, the rule of biology is survival of the species through energy conservation. So it's better to do nothing and procrastinate than to, go, running off in the wrong direction. So the big fear I find, you guys, is you add all those three sort of frustrations together and people get to the stage of just perpetual frustration, which can lead to what I call indifference, which is a really, really tough place to be. People get into indifference. It's like, well, it doesn't seem to matter what I do or what I think about. I try this, it doesn't work. I try this, it doesn't work. I've tried that, it worked for a little while, then it didn't work. And they just get into this cycle. When really what it is, all of us want is to just be fully expressed, whatever that means to us. And we've coached docs that fully expressed is seeing, 50, 100 people a week. We've got other docs that, fully express 12 to 1,500 a week. And I'm not attached to numbers, you guys. It's just an absolute, sorry, I shouldn't say I'm not attached to numbers. This is all about a number tonight, but I'm not attached to whether people want to see this volume or that volume. It's all about what it is that works for you, your ideals, your dreams, and so on. We're going to talk a lot about that as we work through this material tonight, right? We would also love to have just really super clear action steps to know, when we get to a turning point, do we turn left or do we turn right? Because we know exactly where we want to go and we know what to do. So procrastination becomes a thing of the past when your vision is crystal clear. And knowing this number is one of the keys to getting that crystal clarity of vision, into my experience. Okay. Also, once you get this clarity, you guys, comes that consistent growth, right? There will always be little sine waves in business, right? Little ups and downs, but having a small ripple on a pond, versus a 35-foot North Atlantic wave. I mean, that's really the distinction here, right? So that consistent, median growth over time is what everybody is looking for until they reach their full potential, right? And again, that's really what it is. I contend that inside every human being is a desire to live their full potential. So, hey, I'd like to test you guys and see if you guys are still with me, paying attention. In the chat, just give me a yes or a no. Are you somebody that would love to express your full potential in the world? Is that something that's kind of in your awareness? Just get your fingers to your keyboard. Let's just see if there's folks with me here tonight. Is that a yes or a no? Yeah, Bill says yes. Isaac says absolutely. Astrid says, of course. Yeah, it's literally, you guys, one of those things that when I ask that question across the world, it's pretty much unanimous. Everybody wants to fulfill their potential and live it as fully as possible. So here's one of our clients who did just that, Dr. Tara out of Ontario, Canada. Tara was somewhat frustrated because there was aspects of her practice that just weren't, what she would love them to be. And as a result of that, she had certain amount of frustration. She was pretty unclear about the kind of volume that she wanted to see. And she had wanted to really specialize in the, pediatrics and pregnancy sort of realm and stuff. But I mean, did she want to build a practice that saw 50 a week or 200 a week or 500 a week? She was clear, so she didn't know whether to turn left or turn right, to use the example that I said earlier, right? She was very frustrated by all of this. And as a result of that, she just ended up with this feeling, this indifference that I talked about earlier, where it just seemed like the goals were unattainable. Didn't seem to matter what she did or didn't do. It was just, that perpetual state of frustration that I talked about earlier that so many people get into. But after we helped her get the number that we're going to work on tonight, you guys, that created that absolute clarity that I spoke about earlier. She had a really clear dollars and cents plan, and she converted that into really clear action steps. And next thing you know, she's crushing and achieving her goals. So that is just one of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories that I've got, you guys, in my long consulting coaching career. So I will ask you guys to come from a place of trust that what I'm going to share with you tonight can make a huge difference in your life and your practice. All right. So there's 5 keys. And if you're a note taker, this might be something worth jotting down. Whenever I am sitting where you guys are sitting, I'm always taking notes. So that's just kind of my bias. But the 5 things, we're going to go through these in more detail, you guys. So if you don't catch them all right now, don't get stressed about it, right? But the first key to knowing your number is to begin with the end in mind. That's a really important step, and we're going to go into great detail there. You also must be really clear and plan the dream in as much clarity and color and detail as possible. Maxwell Maltz, who wrote the book Psycho-Cybernetics, when I read that book many, many, many years ago, completely enrolled me in the concept that the human mind can't tell the difference between a real event and one imagined in great detail, color, and vividness. And so, literally you can dream your way forward to whatever it is that you'd love to manifest in your life. You got to know your numbers. There's no question, you guys. We'll talk about that in much detail here. You're going to convert these numbers into a debt of service. I'll tell you why. And the final steps is where we're going to lay out the path, right? So if you registered in a reasonable time frame for this conversation tonight, you should have a handout or a worksheet. Did anybody get the worksheet? Just give me a wave on the camera if you got a worksheet that goes with this conversation tonight. Yeah, Bill, you got it. Good. Okay, great. Well, we're gonna get into that in just a sec, you guys. I'm gonna walk you through the worksheet in great detail, but let's just flush out some of these concepts. Just beginning with the end in mind. There was a great author named Stephen Covey who talked about the 7 habits of highly successful people, and he studied the habits of the highly successful. And one of the 7 habits that they had was they always began with the end in mind. They were really clear about what their end result was, what it is they wanted to get out of whatever it was they were doing, whether it was a vacation or it was a business they were building, or whether it was, whatever it was that was important to them, is they always began with the end in mind. And so relative to your business and your life, my highest offering is to really get clarity about your vision. What is it that you would love your life to look like, right? And as a byproduct of that, what would you love your business to look like that supports your life? Because I believe, again, as I said earlier in this conversation, that the two things go hand in hand. They are not a mutually exclusive concept. And a story from my life, you guys, was when I got out of school, I wasn't smart enough or wise enough to have, beginning with the end in mind. I just wanted to go to work, and I was tired of being a student, and I was so dumb I didn't know I could fail, so I didn't. But I was working a crazy number of hours. I was working like 65 hours a week. I was working from 8 to 8, 5 days a week, and a half day on Saturdays. Well, if you think about my life, you guys, and where I am, and some of you know me personally, I've got 5 daughters. And the way I would choose to be a father with my 5 daughters and a husband to my wife, I don't want to be that guy that's got pictures of his kids on his nightside stand so he remembers what the hell they look like. That wasn't the reason why I had children, right? So it's inconceivable for me to be working 65, 75 hours a week and be the kind of father and husband I want to be, right? Which was my highest value for most of my adult life. So again, begin with the end in mind is planning what you want your life to look like. And we're going to go through that in great detail in a little bit, you guys, in the worksheet, and get that clarity and how your business fits in and supports your personal life. Right. I saw a stat in chiropractic economics many years ago. I don't know if it's been updated in the last few years, but where they were talking about your average chiropractor in North America works 50.5 weeks a year. So they take basically a week and a half off a year, and they're in their practices for 44 hours a week. And it's like, when I go around and speak and teach and consult, well, I tell you, I've never heard anybody yet that says, hey, I want to work more hours and longer, and I take less vacations. Never met that person yet, you guys. Maybe they exist somewhere. I just haven't met them, right? But it's absolutely, in my opinion, crucial that the vision for your life and your business are done congruently. They're done in collaboration. They're done there to support each other. And some of you know my story. I mean, when I got really focused on what I wanted, the end to look like for me, I wanted to take 10 to 12 weeks of holidays a year, which I've been doing for over 30 years. I wanted to work about 25 to 26 hours per week. So I had lots of time to be involved with my kids' lives. And I wanted to make a nice 6-figure take-home income. And so that was, a Reader's Digest version of what my end result was. And then I had to go through and, build the focus and the systems and the team to support that vision, right? So now what you do, and this really goes, once you've got clarity about what it is, you've got to work your way backwards, you guys, reverse engineer to the steps you need to do in order to live that dream, okay? It's one thing to, have a vision and a dream and then, begin with the end in mind, but then you go sit on top of a mountain and go all day and expect the creator to provide. No, you've got to be able to reverse engineer back to the stepping stones to be able to get to that, because I certainly didn't go from new graduate to, 10 to 12 weeks of holidays, 25 hours a week, making a nice 6-figure income, overnight. That was a process over time. But by laying out exactly what I wanted the dream to look like and filling in almost like beginning with the end in mind gives you your canvas, you guys, with your, all of the imagery around the outside edges. And then when you take the dream and you color in, in between the lines, you give it depth, you give it perspective, you give it meaning. And so getting that clarity is key as you flush out all of the different aspects. And as we get to the worksheet, I'll show you exactly how to do that. Knowing your numbers is where you would take that dream, you guys, and you would basically take it into a dollars and cents thing. And we'll go through the worksheet, you guys, but just real quick, there's 6 categories of numbers that ends up giving you the final number that I want you to come up with. And I don't expect you necessarily just on this conversation to get to it tonight, you guys, but I want to give you all the structure for how to get there. So the 6 categories, you guys, of knowing your numbers in order to flush out your dreams so you can get to your end thing is savings, taxes, lifestyle, big rocks, debt reduction, and business expenses. So again, savings, taxes, income taxes, lifestyle, big rocks, debt reduction, and office or business expenses. Those are the numbers, you guys, that as we go back here and look at, this planning the dream, it's like, what do I want to put into savings every month? And you want an exact number, you guys, right? On a monthly basis. Of course, IRS or CRA wants to get paid. So, you got to be sure you're according for that and having a percentage of revenue or net revenue, net profit that you're going to be putting into savings every month, or just writing a check to the government every month. In terms of lifestyle, it's what kind of a lifestyle I want to have, what kind of a house do I want to live in, what kind of a car do I want to drive, what kind of a vacation properties do I want to have, heat, hydro, all the basics of life, right? Big rocks are those things that get you emotionally excited about your life, right? They're things that just light you up inside. For us as a family, it was having dinner together literally 363 out of 365 days a year, which doesn't really cost anything. So big rocks don't have to cost anything. But the other end of the spectrum were exotic, international vacations, things that lit up our soul and made us, happy to be alive, right? So again, you put a dollar value to that as you plan the dream. What do you want those dreams to look like? Knowing Dr. Astrid Trim pretty well, I know that she loves her skiing in Whistler, right? So I know that's going to show up on Astrid's Big Rocks list, hopefully year after year, right? So again, debt reduction, pretty straightforward, you guys, right? If you do have some personal debts, not business debts, I advocate those business debts get recorded in the business expenses. And the last one is the business expenses. And so literally by putting a number to that and putting a dollar value to that, you can actually get real clear about whether you need a business that creates 15,000 a month or 50,000 a month or 150,000 a month or whatever other number that it is that makes your heart glow. Okay. Now we're going to get into this in the worksheet, you guys, but we're going to convert those dollars into service. Okay. Because the one thing in the chiropractic industry we all understand is we all understand service. We all understand, putting a practice member, a patient in front of us, laying on our hands and serving them to the best of our ability, right? So depending upon whether your fee for service is, $40 or $50 or $100 or whatever it is in your area, what you want to do is take that monthly dollar value for those 6 categories. And let's just pick an easy number, you guys. Okay. So let's just say it was $50,000 is what you needed to cover your business expenses, your debt reduction, your big rocks, lifestyle, taxes, and savings. And your average fee for service was miraculously, so it's easy math for me, $50. Well, you would take that $50 and you'd divide it into 50,000. And unless my math's completely wrong, you guys, you'd end up with 1,000 services in a month you would need to perform at that dollar value in order to live your dream. And when one of my mentors taught me this years ago, you guys, to convert anything that I wanted financially into a debt of service, it's like that made more sense to me. Because growing up in a pretty lower middle class, blue collar working family, there was a lot of baggage around dollars and cents and what it meant. And I've worked really diligently for over 30 years to clear my consciousness of that. But I understood what an adjustment was. I understood what a service was. And so I said, oh, well, if I'm at X services and I want to get to Y services, I know what I got to do. I can make a plan to do that. And I'll show you how to do that tonight, you guys. Okay. So converting dollars to services works really well. And the last step you guys are going to cover, we're going to get to the worksheet here really soon, is to lay out the path. right? So that you're 100% clear on exactly where you are, where you're going, and how many, weeks, months, quarters it's going to take you to get there. And then having the courage to monitor and structure those numbers so that you record them and look at them on a regular basis. Yeah, no worries, Bill. Okay, so let's get to this next step of the puzzle, you guys. I want to go and show you this. Dr. Astrid, do you have a question?
When you're talking about taking all the good vacations, so when we're looking at that number of services per week, how many weeks are we talking about then? Is that taking 1 week every quarter, or is?
Great question. It depends upon you and your lifestyle and what you want to do, Astrid, right? So, I recommend at least taking a week a quarter. So, you'd be looking at whatever that number is and looking at it over 48 weeks, not 52, right? So you'd want to get clarity about that. I usually just convert it into a month, Astrid. So I'll do like 12 months of the year, because even if I'm taking a couple weeks here and a couple weeks there, it's not that common that I'll take a whole month or two off. Right. So I'll do it on a monthly basis, and then I'll divide it into that. But again, it's wise if you say, hey, look, I'm going to take 2 weeks off in the month of August. Right. Well, then we get into
or 2 months a quarter. I'll have to put that in there. I never thought about that before. So two weeks, 2 months a quarter would be great, wouldn't it?
2 months a quarter is where you're headed, maybe, but maybe there's a couple more steps to get there. Right. Great question, by the way. Thanks for asking.
Do that. Yeah.
All right, let me get to the worksheet, you guys, and let me just hit a couple of buttons here. And we should get up. If you got the worksheet, you guys, it should look something like this, okay? So again, as we've been discussing here, the 5 action steps, right? The peak of this sort of pyramid, if you will, you guys, is to be able to begin, right? See if I can, let's see how good my writing is tonight. Begin with the end. Whoa, there we go. Come on, iPad, do your thing. Begin with the end, right? Begin with the end in mind. That's really, the first stepping stones. And then, as we just talked about, you're going to plan the dream, and you're going to do it with as much detail and color and clarity as you can. And if you say, look, I'm going to be taking 2 weeks off to go to wherever, it's like, well, where's wherever? And are you going to stay in a 3-star or a 5-star accommodations? And or do you need to rent a car? Are you flying? Are you driving? Get some structure to the dream so that you can have the clarity that you, would love to have. And then, as we talked about, you've got to know your numbers. Okay. And in specific, we're talking about putting a dollar value to these 6 categories. And let me just lay out those 6 categories for you guys, okay? So that they're super clear. So we talked about how savings and taxes, and for specific, I'm talking about income taxes, you guys, okay? And the savings too. I mean, you can, The Richest Man in Babylon and several other great writings have enrolled me in the idea that you want to be targeting 10% of your revenue as a nice target. Now, again, you might not be there yet, but that's a good target to have for savings as you're looking at knowing, your numbers. Okay. And again, to review, you guys, and get it in writing here, lifestyle is another number, which is, everything from houses and cars and food and, things that allow you to, live. And then we have this beautiful category called big rocks, which are the dreams and the things that just make your heart soar. Okay. Down here, we have debt reduction. And we also have, your biz costs. So those are the 6 categories, you guys, that are into this know your numbers scenario. Okay. Savings and taxes, lifestyle and big rocks, debt reduction, and business or practice costs. Okay. So now what we do is we talked about knowing your numbers, and then we talked about converting into, you want to convert that into a service coefficient. Okay. And in order to do that, you've got to know, let's just do this in a really nice, fun, deep green color. Green is dollars. You have to know what your average fee for services. Okay. And again, I used the example earlier of say $50. Okay. Now, again, it's not always just exactly what's, published on your menu board or whatever, because you got to take, maybe you got discounts and charity cases and scholarships and pediatric things and different things, right? So you take your entire, ideally you do it over a long period of time. You take all of the dollars in a year, divide it by all the services, and you get your average fee for service in order to be able to convert this scenario into dollars, right? So again, that is your fee for service, as I just said. Okay, and then of course, what you can end up with here, you guys, is your magic number. And so again, just to give context to this, right? We had said that, say, perhaps that you were looking to your dollars number was 50,000 per month. Okay, your average fee was $50. So your magic number would be 50,000 divided by 50, which would be 1,000 services. And again, I've let the cat out of the bag, you guys, but that's literally what we call that. We call that your magic number, because when you know exactly how many services you need to do in order to live your life and your ideal, based upon whatever these numbers work out to be over here, these 6 numbers, knowing your numbers, converting it into a debt of service gives you that magic number. And this is just one example, you guys. You could plug it in. But I can tell you again the difference, and hopefully I'm communicating this in a way that makes complete sense to everybody. But it's like when you absolutely are crystal clear about the difference between 250 and 200 or 300 or 120 or whatever the number is, you can get it right down to the person exactly what it is that you want to grow to in order to live your life in your ideal. Okay. And that's, again, we call that the magic number, because when you know that number, all the doubt and lack of clarity is gone, procrastination ends, and you can make a plan that will allow you to get to exactly where it is you want to go. And that's where we talked about earlier, you guys, where I talk about, this is where you lay out the dream. Okay. You lay out, well, the path to the dream. All right. And very specifically, we talked about how you would do this on a monthly layout and on a quarterly layout, and then on an annual basis. So when you're laying out the path, you guys, you want to be sure that it's got like a monthly summary of what your targets are. Because again, as Dr. Trim just brought up, right, you can be a difference. Like maybe you're gone for 2 weeks in August. Well, maybe, you're going to shut down for 2 weeks, or maybe you're going to have a locum come in, or maybe the associate's going to cover. Maybe they don't carry the same volume as you, right? So that month of August might be a little bit of a downturn month relative to the big picture. But when you look at it over the course of the quarter, because when you get back and you're all refreshed and energized, you're going to be crushing it out there, right? So over the quarter, that little sine wave dip in August, would hopefully not get noticed. And then of course, the bigger pictures where you look at it annually and you go, okay, what is it that I want my annual numbers to look like? And of course, in North America, we've got weather and we've got hurricanes and tornadoes and snowstorms and ice storms and all kinds of craziness that happens that, again, can take the sine wave tour of decreasing the numbers of people that you might be able to serve, and therefore decrease your revenue for that month. But over the course of a quarter or a year, that will all balance itself out and you'll end up with that absolute clarity. So that's the worksheet, you guys. I definitely wanted to share that with you guys so that you understand how to work through each of these steps. So again, just real quick review, you guys, right? We're going to always begin with the end in mind, right? We're going to know your numbers. Let's actually do that in another color. You're going to convert it into services. You're going to flush out your dreams, and you're going to, whoa, that was actually crazy what just happened there. And you're going to lay out the path. And by doing that, you'll end up with your magic number. Indecision, procrastination ends, and you end up with that crystal clarity. So anybody have any questions? Either throw it in the chat, or, if you're in a quiet background, certainly come off mute. Happy to answer any questions about that. And actually, I have a question for you guys too, while you're reflecting. Have any of you taken the time to actually do that, to have your magic number like clearly calculated? Just throw it in the chat, you guys. Simple yes or no. Is it a have you taken the time to develop that magic number, or is it something you can do at another time? Simple yes or no, you guys. Let's just see where people are at with this process while I get a sip of water. Isaac says not yet, planning to. Very wise, sir. Very wise. And Astrid says, yes, I have done it, and I know why. Well done. Very well done. Okay, let's get this back on track, you guys, and we'll sort of bring this baby in for a landing tonight, unless there's questions, and I'm happy to stay around to answer questions. So again, we worked through the worksheet. You know, the coach in me can't help but the same recommendations I always make, right? Which is, what are the action steps for you from tonight? Okay. And I'd love for you to just take, 20 seconds right now and just jot it out. What is your next action step? As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's just throw it in the chat, you guys. What's your next action step? And if you're not clear about your next action step, I'm certainly happy to brainstorm it with you and see if we can't, even just get the next action step. What is your next action step, you guys, from this conversation so far? What is it you need to do? Do you need to figure out what your average fee for service is? Do you need to, get some clarity on your vision and what the end result is? Do you need to flush out more of the color and detail that's in, your plan? Do you need to review what the heck a big rock is? There's no action step too small, you guys. I would love to just get in the chat what your next action step is. And that is definitely me throwing my coach hat on to ensure that people have some action steps here. So let's just see what we got going on here. It always takes a while to get that done. And what I would also highly advocate for you guys is that you get a deadline in time and space for when you're going to do that, right? So Dr. Astrid says she's going to redo her numbers along with my refined schedule of where I'm going and make sure it's all on target. I love that. That's a really, really solid action step. And my offering, you guys, again, is get a deadline in time and space for when that action step is going to be completed. Isaac says he's going to figure out his ideal patient goal per month as a new Chiro. Awesome. That would serve you very well. I wished I could have sat in on this conversation, Isaac, when I was new in practice. It would have saved me a lot of aggravation and heartache down the road. That's for doggone sure, right? So, all right. So once you've got action steps and a deadline, you guys, you just, get it in your calendars, grab your phone or wherever you do time management and just get it in there. If it feels like there's a couple of steps in order to do that, well, then I recommend you storyboard it, right? Where you break it down into chunks, into bite-sized pieces, right? In order to not make it, such a big animal that you don't feel like you can, take a good bite and chew on it. If a task is too big, you guys, the human mind gets frustrated because it's just like, where do I even start? So seriously, invest the time, break it down into bite-sized steps so that you know exactly what the first step is, and then put a deadline to each one of those steps so that you have the accountability and the integrity to, to follow through. Okay. So for those of you that follow along with these, we do these magic shows. I love how my men put that little magic show curtain in there. It's kind of cool. So the next one, as of this recording, you guys, will be done on July the 21st, a couple of weeks from this recording tonight. Again, we have been using the 7:30 Eastern Standard Time slot for quite a while now. And this one actually is well, not that I didn't very much enjoy this conversation tonight, you guys, but this is one that we've labeled Marketing on a $12 per month Budget, how to get new patients with no money. And I actually don't know anybody that wouldn't value, figuring that piece of the puzzle out. So relative to our roadmap, you guys, let me just show you where that shows up on a roadmap, because it's an important part of the structure of what we do for our clients. And, that's the wrong thing to hit. The iPad for cable is there. So again, within our roadmap, you guys, which is just literally step by step, depending upon where people are coming into us. So Isaac, for example, maybe a little newer in practice, you might be starting to work on this, sort of rung of the ladder, which is what we call the clarity phase. And then once people have worked through all of the structure and vision, focus, systems, and team under clarity, and a clarity about who they are, who they're not, what they want their business to look like, how it integrates with their personal life, all the team stuff, basic system stuff, then if you allow me, graduate onto working on the manifestation level, again, under vision, focus, systems, and team. And then we even have our advanced clients that are working on what we call the legacy level, which is where they're talking about leaving a long-term legacy. So what's great about this, you guys, is it allows us to just know step by step by step, what it is that we need to share with people depending upon where they're at and what it is that they're looking to achieve. So this next one, you guys, the how to get unlimited new patients on a $12 a month budget, that very specifically lands right here in our internal marketing step in the manifestation level. So that's what we're going to be focusing on next time. If you would love to join us, we would love to have you. And there will be I'm sure you'll be, if you're got to this one, we'll get you a registration link and stuff so that you could, register for that. So thanks so much for investing the time to be here tonight, you guys. It's definitely, as I said, I've committed my entire this phase of my adult life to helping people just like you create more meaning, freedom, and dollars in their lives. And if we could be of service to you, if you'd love to have a conversation about how we might be able to help you do that, I would be very open to having that conversation. Just reach out to me either by text or email, and we'll book a conversation. We call them a discovery call, to just discover a little more about you, your business, and what it is that you're looking for. And we could know within 20, 30 minutes whether we could be of any service to you. If we can't, I can promise you I would be open and honest enough to tell you that I couldn't. One thing I refuse to do is waste people's time, energy, or money. It's just not who I am. So anyways, that's where I wanted to end tonight, unless people have some questions. Astrid, you're most welcome. Happy to have you here. Isaac, Bill, Alan, anybody have any questions? I'm happy to answer a couple if anybody does have any. There's always that interesting save, no questions. Thanks for the outline. Absolutely, Isaac. And Bill, I know you had to step away for a little bit, but if you need the recording, we could certainly get it to you. Just got to let us know. All right. So, well, listen, you guys, as of this recording, let me just hit the record button here and shut that off.